Well, hello there, my lovelies. I come to you today with moderately dire news. The Sephora children have taken over. No retail place is safe. Not a Sephora, not an Ulta. I don't know what they have in the UK or Asia or Africa, but those places aren't safe either. Any place that has testers, not safe. So let's talk about it, because what do I like to do more? Okay, so let's start out with what is a Sephora child? You may or may not know if you're on the internet. I know because I spend too much time on the internet. But if you don't, a Sephora child is a young person, generally of Gen Alpha, like millennials children. All right, but I feel like it could be Gen Z. Some of them are Gen Z too, probably. But generally, it's Gen Alpha, and they are children that go into Sephora's, sometimes unaccompanied, sometimes with adult supervision. Generally, it's the ones where I'm kind of like, those are Gen Z actually, who are the unaccompanied ones. And Gen Alpha is like millennials, children, you know? So Gen Z is mostly raised by Gen X and sometimes boomers. Millennials, their children are Gen Alpha, and then also Gen Z's children are also Gen Alpha. Now, I think the number one problem with these children is not even so much that they're terrorizing retail employees. That's bad too. My sister works in retail and she's told me some stories about these children. I think the number one problem is just the fact that they are going to malls unattended. Like, she said she's had like 12-year-old girls come into the place where she works in a mall unattended, and I'm like, who is letting their 12-year-old just wander around the mall? Like, I work and so does she, in a very crime populated area. I think it's like number 10 per capita in the US. And who's letting their child just walk around these stores? Why are you letting your 12-year-old daughter walk around the mall unattended? What is wrong with you people? Like, I was not allowed to go to the mall unattended until I was like 15, 16, and even then I still kind of don't want to. I always had to go with my sister. In my opinion, that's just more fun. And yes, obviously there is a problem with the fact that they are terrorizing these retail employees, and it's so weird because I feel like millennials and Gen Z, we've made such a push to have this sense of respect for everyone, right? Like, we try to preach equality, and it reminds me of how Gen Z, we as a generation claim to be body positive, but then we have the highest rates of plastic surgery and insecurities and body dysmorphia, things like that through, the internet, and filter usage is so high among this generation. How did this not translate into real life? I want somebody to do, like, look into that. I won't do that because I'm not a scientist. Somebody should. Somebody should be looking into that, making sure everything is okay, because I do not think Gen Alpha is going to be okay, because they're getting taught lessons by their parents. Even, I know some people say millennials don't parent their children. I think millennials do parent their children. I think the problem is that then you have all of these influencers who they're watching and they want to replicate, they want to be cool, and they replicate these people, and these people tell them it's cool to disrespect these employees, to go around and make a mess out of everything. It's trends, and at the end of the day, those trends are unfortunately going to impact these children more than the teachings of their parents. Because, I mean, what kid is honest to God listening to every single thing their parent tells them? The answer is very, very few. And I think that's something that a lot of people aren't seeing. Like, I don't know. I know many millennial parents, and yeah, some of them are, I don't want to say bad parents, but they are definitely the parents if I've had children. But then other ones, they're good parents. But I think the problem is that these kids, even if you do not allow your child to have access to a phone, to TikTok, when they go over to their friend's house, those friends' parents might allow their children to have access to TikTok. And so they're seeing it through their friends. You cannot raise a child in a bubble. And so I just want to defend the millennials here for a moment. Don't get me wrong, I like to crap on millennials as much as the next Gen Zer, but I will say that I do not think we should be blaming every single millennial for how their parents are, not their parents, for how their children are turning out. Let's go ahead and talk about the impact that I believe this will have on Gen Alphas in a long run, because when we look at the products that they are terrorizing, they are harsh products. I mean, these children are using retinols. I don't want to say that every single child is using a retinol, but a lot of them are. And if you do not know, a retinol is a vitamin A derivative that is very potent and very strong on the skin. So when you put it on, it will speed up the production of collagen. I don't know how it does it, but it helps to even out fine lines and wrinkles and just plump the skin a little bit, which is why it's not advised to use it until you are at least in your 30s. That's an at least, like not even in your 20s. Once you hit like 30, it's like okay, maybe like once a week use a very low grade retinol. The problem is that these children, they are using it at the age of 10, 11, 12, and that's going to cause long-term damage to their skin. I'm not very well versed in this, but I do believe James Welsh has a video on it. And then Jen Love also has a really good video on it. And they both kind of go into how, specifically the retinol, it is going to damage their skin. It's going to burn it. If you have sensitive skin, retinol can actually cause damage to your skin barrier. It can lead to acne, inflammation, all sorts of stuff that you just don't want to have going on with your skin. I mean, I use a chemical exfoliant maybe twice a week as someone who suffers from breakouts, right? Like hormonal skin, I will get breakouts like along here, and I use a chemical exfoliant twice a week to help with that, but it's a very low grade chemical exfoliant, and I am far older than these children who are using retinol. And you know, I've seen a lot of people also blaming not Gen Z, millennials, and I suppose Gen Z if they had them really young, for allowing their children to use these skincare ingredients. But I will say this, some people just don't know that skincare can be that dangerous. Like my mom let me use a retinol cream when I was younger just because she didn't know, and she had gotten it and it didn't work for her skin. She was like, here, you try it. And so I used it completely up, but she was not very well versed in skincare, so she did not know this is a dangerous ingredient. And I mean, there are studies linking it to like bone issues, right? Like in really high dosages. And so what I'm kind of getting at is maybe these parents don't particularly know that it's a bad thing for them to be using this ingredient. I don't know. Okay, and another thing I just kind of want to touch on is how much insecurity I think it is going to be causing, because these children are getting told that you have to use this or else your skin will break out. And let me tell you, as someone who doesn't particularly suffer from breakouts as bad as some people, even having like a pimple or two can massively implement my self-image. I mean, I grew up in very much I don't know how to describe it, but I did not grow up on the internet as much as some people do. And even when I was on the internet at a rather young age, looking back on it, it was like stuff like Barbie that I was watching. Do you guys remember that TV show, like the Barbie Life in the Dream House with Raquel? And yeah, that show was iconic. Chef's kiss. But I did not spend as much time on the, I don't want to say toxic side of the internet, but yeah, like the toxic side of the internet where I was constantly being told I'm not good enough with acne. You know, when I got into skincare, I watched channels like Beauty Within, which very much do preach like self-love and self-care. And so that they were my introduction into skincare, and I'm very, very lucky about that, because I was not introduced to skincare having it be like a punishment type of thing, right? I was introduced to skincare with it being a ritual you do to feel love. But Gen Alpha is just not getting that. They are being told from a young age to use these products or else they will get ugly and wrinkly at 25. Do you know how many 25-year-olds I know who look so young? And do you know how many 40-year-olds I know that they tell me, oh yeah, I'm 40. And I'm like, dang, I thought you were like 30. Our perception of age has been affected. People are viewing like 26-year-olds and going, oh my gosh, you're so old. It's like, they're 26. They're 26. Shut up. I mean, a lot of times they're young people, so I don't want to say that, but yeah, respectfully, like, I do not look at my oldest brother and go, oh my gosh, he's so old because he's 27. Nah, I look at him and go, you're 27. Like, that's kind of cool. What's it like to be an adult? I would ask you what's like to have your life together, but you just got it there. So, like, that's another thing. I don't think these people realize you're not going to have your life figured out by the time you are 18. Like, you're not. It takes you until you're, like, in your 20s to get figured out. I say that as someone who's not in my 20s. I don't expect to have my life figured out by the time I'm 24. Nah, I'm probably still going to be working at an Olive Garden at 24, which went back. It's a whole long story. It's not good. Please do not be allowing your children to be using these ingredients. They're going to affect their skin. They're going to have harmful outcomes in the long term. Monitor your children online. Please, I beg of you, because you do not know, especially if your child is like 10, you don't know what they're watching, and those are very developmentally filled years. Like, maybe once they're like 16, it's like okay if like you aren't going through their YouTube watch history. But when they're like 10, I don't know. I think that can be really, really damaging because they are seeing so much of this content that is telling them they will not be beautiful if they have any signs of aging. And let me tell you, I'm very young, but I notice some lines in my forehead. The saturation's really high up, so you probably won't see it. I have lines underneath my eyes. They're just naturally forming. They're just naturally there, and I don't think that makes me ugly or that makes me old and withered. I think that's just a natural thing. Some people have really deep smile lines. I naturally have lines underneath my eyes and on my forehead. I'm a very expressive person, especially with my eyebrows. And so for me, you can tell. You can tell that I move my eyebrows a lot because I'll get little crinkles there. And sometimes it's because like I still have my eyebrows a little bit raised. I don't ever really fully relax them. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I do not think that, oh, my wrinkles, which aren't even wrinkles, they're just lines. I'm not going to go like, they're beautiful. No, they're just lines. They come from expression. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, I don't think we need to be preaching these things are beautiful and it's beautiful to age, which there's nothing wrong with aging. But I don't think we should be putting wrinkles and stuff above smooth skin. Like, it should just be like, you're beautiful the way you are. And if you want to work to improve yourself towards standards that are placed on you by society, that's fine so long as you do it at a moderate level, but you should know that your worth and your value and your beauty are not defined by those things, because those are internal things at the end of the day. I'm just stupid and young and naive. I don't know, but that is my personal opinion on it. And I think we need to be starting to teach this to Gen Alpha and to say, look, it does not matter if you get acne. I can assure you it's not the end of the world, because we all remember being there. We all remember breaking out and being like, oh my gosh, my world is ending. I'm ugly. And then guess what? That pimple went away. You were fine. You weren't ugly. We decided to let Gen Alpha believe all these things and then shame them for it. Because a lot of the videos I'm seeing, they're shaming Gen Alpha. They're shaming millennials for how they're raising their kids. And yes, I do believe millennials are having a lot of feedback on the way that they're parenting, and some of that feedback is valid. Some of it is not as valid. I don't believe it's bad to, I don't believe it's bad to allow your child onto the internet at all. But I also don't think it's bad to have a child that you raise completely off the internet. it depends on the kid, and they're getting so much feedback. I think a lot of these parents have just shut it out all completely. And so nobody is telling these children and telling these parents that the internet is a terrifying place still. I think there are some millennials who they talk about, oh, I remember the internet when I was a kid. I'm like, yeah, it's still that bad. Yes, there are some regulations now, but not a lot. And I think we just need to have a conversation about that without shaming millennials, because I think when you shame someone, it automatically makes their shields go up. They automatically are like defensive and like, no, that cannot be the case. But it is the case, and that is fine. It's all well and good, I promise you. So yeah, with that, I will leave you guys, my lovelies. I'm going to go do something. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!